What's up, everybody? I'm Marcus.
I'm Ryan.
And together,
we are the Northwest Sports Fanatics.
Back at you guys with a new video, give you an NFL preview of the Thursday night game.
Right.
And also top 5 college football games to watch this weekend.
All right, so with the game for tomorrow, Thursday night at 5:25 on CBS.
It's going to be the New York City Jets versus the Buffalo Bills. And let's talk about the Jets offense. To me, on offense, the side of the ball, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he missed a lot of throws last week. He looked kind of out of sync, and that's because he basically missed all of the preseason training camp OTAs with the contract dispute. But you got to get the ball to Brandon Marshall, man. He needs more targets. And also, to me, Bilal Powell, he's a threat out of the backfield catching the ball. He needs more than 6 touches.
Right, no more Chris Ivory, who's moved on to the Jags, so now you're going to have to move forward with that. But you did bring in Matt Forte. Mm-hmm. He's getting older, but he still can produce. Mm-hmm. But Decker and Marshall are, like I said, one of the best duos in the league besides maybe Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, 1-2 punches, or Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns. But it's going to be a key on how accurate Fitzpatrick can be.
Yeah, and Matt Forte was his usual self, what we expected. He had 150 total yards, all-purpose yards. What about the defensive side of the ball?
All right, Jets D, right? You had 7 sacks against the Bengals, so salute to you. It was a great performance, but the thing is, you couldn't hold on in the fourth quarter when you needed to. But you got good names. Your front 7 is dominant, probably one of the best in the NFL. Sheldon Richardson, Muhammad Wilkerson, and then one of my favorites, Leonard Williams, right? USC. From where? USC, right? And it's taken him a little bit longer to get established, but I think once he gets in the groove, kind of like a Jadeveon Clowney, once they get a few more games under their belt, we'll see really what they can do. This is the 111th meeting between these AFC East foes. Buffalo leads the series 59-51. And then we can't forget about the best defensive player on their team, Darrelle Revis.
Of course.
And we went from the Revis truck stop to Revis Island, and I think we'll get back to that Revis Island, obviously, with this matchup, because I know Sammy Watkins isn't 100%. Tyrod Taylor hasn't been thrown as good, so I imagine the Jets will impose their will on the Buffalo Bills on the road.
Come on, Revis, man. Don't deteriorate on us just yet. So let's go to the Bills, the Buffalo Bills. Offensive side of the ball, they managed only 160 total yards. The worst in 10 years for that franchise.
Yeah, unbelievable for both teams being 0-1. We saw Tyrod Taylor, a.k.a. T-Mobile, right? He didn't really have a good game, but I would assume with that crowd and LaShawn McCoy, they got to pick it up. I know Sammy Watkins is a big piece of their offense. When he's out there and healthy, they move the ball better. When he's not out there, they really seem to kind of slow down, and they have problems executing their plays.
$96 million for you, Mr. Tyrod. 160 yards total offense is not going to work. You got weapons. You got LaShawn McCoy, like you said, Sammy Watkins. You got a good tight end in Charles Clay. So let's see if they can get it going against the tough Jets defense.
Yeah, and ironically, even though the Bills are probably the worst team out of the two in the matchup, they won the last 3 matchups, right? Last year, both matchups by 5 points each, 22-17, 22-17, and then 2014 they stomped them 38-3. So, in their minds, they're probably pretty confident. You know, they're going to be rolling at home. Marcel Darius is really the key, though, right? He's their anchor. He's their horse. He's their leader up front. On the D, suspended for the first 4 games. That might be one of the key reasons why they are struggling, but they can lean on Kyle Williams, who's still a nice piece at the D tackle position. And on the back end, they got Stephon Gilmore, one of my favorite players on the back end for their team.
All right, so there you go. Get you guys a little prepared for the Thursday night game. Now let's go to the college football. You know, we was let down, disappointed about the matchups last weekend, but let me tell you, this weekend is totally different.
Right. This actually kind of compares to week 1, where we had arguably the best opening weekend in college football history. And once we go over these 5 matchups, you'll be probably going to agree with us. This is going to be a must-see weekend for football.
All right, let's kick it off. The number 2 Florida State Seminoles, they going against the surprising number 10 Louisville Cardinals.
Right, both teams are 2-0. The game is going to be bright and early during breakfast time, 9 a.m. on ABC.
And what I'm looking out for is the QB battle. DeAndre Francois from Florida State, 681 yards, 5 touchdowns, against Mr. Lamar Jackson, who's an unknown. They call him Action Jackson, by the way.
Right, and he's been probably the most spectacular probably individual player in college football so far. Francois, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, 681 yards. Jackson, 7-1, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick, 697 yards.
Wow.
Pretty close in the statistics, but really what separates Lamar Jackson, he's got touchdowns on the rushing end. Mm-hmm. And then the crazy thing is he's actually leading the team in rushing.
Wow.
He's got 6 TDs rushing for 318 yards.
Wow.
So Is it a Heisman kind of candidate already? I think so. I mean, he's really starting to blossom as one of the elite right now in college football.
Well, in 2015, he had 23 total touchdowns.
Okay.
Passing and rushing.
Right.
This year, he already has 13.
Yeah. So how many is he going to end up with? It sounds like somewhere between the 30 and 40 range if he keeps up this pace.
All right. Don't forget about Dalvin Cook, running back. He said he the best. We need to see it.
Right.
So let's go to the next matchup. The number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide.
Okay.
Roll Tide. And they're going against the number 19 Ole Miss Rebels.
Right. So this game is going to be on at 12:30 at CBS.
All right. So, the quarterback Alabama, Mr. Jalen Hurts. But what I'm looking for, Alabama has a thing for running backs. Eddie Lacy, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry. They have a really good sophomore in Damian Harris. And if you're going to be up next, we need to get rolling so you can keep the tradition going.
Right. And obviously, as far as Ole Miss is concerned, they're confident. Jim Kelly has good lineage because now Chad Kelly, related to Jim Kelly, former Buffalo Bills Super Bowl quarterback. And Chad Kelly running the QB position for Ole Miss. They've won the last 2 games against Alabama.
Wow.
So you can't really name too many teams that beat Alabama. And I think the last time Nick Saban has lost 3 games in a row to a single opponent is when he wasn't even at Alabama or LSU. It was back when he was at Michigan State. Oh, wow. So this is going to be something that they're going to break history. Last couple games that they played, it's not like they blew Alabama out because no one can do that. They won by 6 each time. Okay. So that 43-37, right? So you got 6 points there, and then obviously 23-17. So it's not like they're really smoking them, but it is very eye-opening because there's not very many teams that play on Alabama's level.
All right, and my eye is, like you said, is on Mr. Chad Kelly. Before the season, he said he was the best QB in college. 7 TDs, 3 touchdowns, and that meltdown against FSU in the opener. Come on, Chad. We got to see more.
Right, and then the defense, let's not forget about that, is number 1 in college football. They are the best. Chad Kelly has not seen a D this good since the last time that they played, but even though they've overcome that, he wasn't he wasn't really there the full 4 quarters in those 2 years. So they've had other QBs kind of rotated in the mix. But the defense is amazing. I see at least 3-4 first-rounders on that defense, or may even be more as the season goes on. And I still would assume Alabama will smoke them when it's all said and done.
All right, let's go to the next game. We have the number 22 Oregon Ducks.
Okay.
And they traveling to Nebraska to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Right. Both teams 2-0, 12:30 at ABC.
Of course, the Ducks are led by Mr. Royce Freeman, to me a top 20 pick in next year's draft. Also, Dakota Pruka, transfer from Montana State. Shout out to all the Bobcats I know out there. Let's see how you handle it. It's prime time now. This ain't Montana State.
Right. So this is the first test for the Ducks. You had Vernon Adams. You brought in the transfer last year. You're doing the same thing with Dakota Prukop this year. But what's really the key matchup, I don't think a lot of people are talking about, is the coaching battle. Right. So Nebraska's coach is who? Former Oregon State Beaver coach, Mike Riley. So he's got something to prove, and then the Sea of Red is going to be lit. They lead the series all time. Nebraska does 5-1 all time. Okay. So they're going to be confident. They are the favored team, even though they aren't ranked against the Ducks. But Prukop's not bad. 68% completion percentage for his passing, so he's not bad. Could be a little bit better. 300 yards a game is really what he's averaging. Got about 6 TDs so far. Royce Freeman, like you said, is the best player on the team.
Yes, sir.
Besides maybe like Charles Nelson getting in there like Black Mamba, maybe get some reverses and some looks. But it's going to be a battle. This is going to be the really first test for the Ducks, and Duck fans, don't be surprised if the Ducks end up losing this game. Pac-12 play is going to be right around the corner, so we don't really know how many games you're going to win, but it could be somewhere between an 8-4, 9-3 season. But this game, if they want to get to that number, has to be a must-win on the road.
All right, keep an eye out on that Nebraska offense. I got my eye on them. They're well balanced. They average 263 yards passing a game and 215 yards rushing.
Right.
All right, so let's go to the next matchup. The number 12 Michigan State Spartans. They traveling to the number 18 Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Right, 4:30 on NBC.
And for Michigan State, I only got a couple of things to say about you guys. 10 penalties, 2 turnovers versus Furman. That's not going to get it done against Notre Dame.
Right. And like I said, they need to clean up their act, if they really want to beat a quality team like Notre Dame. This is the first meeting since 2013. Deshaun Kaiser, quarterback for the Irish, is amazing. Top 5 in the nation in passer rating.
Wow.
He is awesome in the red zone. He's already got 5 TDs. I believe he's 7 for 10 in the red zone. So you can't ask for any better stats than that rather than 9 for 10 or 8 and 10.
Yes,
and it's going to be a real key matchup because it's going to be him versus that elite Michigan State defense.
Yes.
Who's going to come out on top? top. And if Notre Dame plays like they have been lately, even though they are the underdog at home, they could come up with the W.
And shout out to Brian Kelly. I like Brian Kelly, the coach for Notre Dame there. And our last matchup of the day, we're going to go to number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes, and they traveling to the number 14 Oklahoma Sooners.
4:30 p.m. on your Fox affiliate.
And the thing I'm watching for Ohio State, I mean, it's kind of baffling to think about. They only have 6 starters returning from last year, but they have 1 starter returning at the most important position, and that's Mr. J.T. Barrett.
Right. And the Sooners, you got to think, when they got smacked by Houston week 1, and it was right, they got smacked around. So Houston's on the map now. Oklahoma, they kind of had their heads down, but this is a time for them to rebound and get back in the mix into the playoff picture. Like you mentioned, Ohio State only 6 returning starters. So to me, that equals only one thing: 6 returning starters plus Urban Meyer equals legendary. So you know you're going to be able to get an A+ game from him. The last meeting between these two teams was 1983 in Norman, Oklahoma. Ohio State won 24-14, so this is a long time ago. The Buckeyes, they outscore their opponents at will, it seems like, 125-13 in the first 2 weeks. But
Crazy.
The opponents they are playing are not very good. So this will be a true
cupcakes.
Right, called cupcake games, but this is a true matchup. One key football player to watch. If you're going to watch anybody in this game, it's going to be the best safety in college football right now. Okay, and his name is Malik Hooker. All right, Malik Hooker. Remember that name. He will be in the NFL on Sunday soon. He's already leading the FBS right now in interceptions.
Wow.
He's got 3 in the first 2 games, and he's on pace for like a 10, 11, 12 type of interception season. And if we see that, this might be the best complete safety we've seen maybe since like a Troy Polamalu or an Ed Reed. So if the Sooners want to pull off this upset, one player is going to have to step up his game, and that's going to be Baker Mayfield, the QB.
Sir. Of course, Mr. Baker Mayfield. I know you guys are still hurt by that Houston loss, so let's see what Bob Stoops got in store down there in Soonertown for him.
Right, and he's got to have a career game to outplay J.T. Barrett, because obviously he's the stud there at Ohio State. And check this out. J.T. Barrett, 76 TDs in 3-year career, right?
Wow.
Which is already amazing in itself, about 25 per season, and the season's not even over yet,
Correct.
right? So far, and guess what? He's got 25 on the ground. So he's a dual threat. So if Oklahoma really wants to be able to pull off this win, you got to limit JT Barrett on the ground. You got to get interceptions, and Baker Mayfield's got to outplay JT Barrett for the W.
All right, so there you have it. Northwest Sports Fanatics. We'll be back at you guys real soon with a new video. I'm Marcus, this Orion. And I only got one question for you. Who you know talk sports like us?
Northwest Sports Fanatics.